Then in some cities, the judges can afford not to take government accommodation because the house rent allowance is very sumptuous. So to put it in brief, now the service conditions are reasonable. And friends, when I say service conditions are reasonable, you must remember one thing very clearly, that you can't compare income as a judge and income as a lawyer. Because there is something more than the service condition, there is something more than the salary, there is something more than the honor and respect which is attached to the office. Now that something more is enormous satisfaction which you derive while you perform your duties as a judge. I have been a lawyer for 20 years. I have been a judge for now more than 10 years. I can tell you from my own experience, the satisfaction, the job satisfaction you get as a judge is simply phenomenal, simply enormous. You can't compare that with the job satisfaction you get as a lawyer. Apart from job satisfaction, there is great deal of satisfaction involved in the job of doing something for the common man, of upholding the rule of law, of upholding the fundamental rights of the citizens. There is one more very interesting aspect of the judicial position or the judicial work which one does. When you work as a lawyer, when you stand in the court as a lawyer, you are controlled by many factors. You are controlled by the judge, you are controlled by your own client, you are controlled by your opponent. But when you sit on the dais and work as a judge, nobody can control you except your own conscience. Nobody can control you. You are totally free. You are totally independent. Nobody can control you what you are going to do as a judge when you sit on the dais. There is no interference. There is no control. There is no external factor which really influences your mind. Now that's the beauty of the job, that you are completely free. You are completely independent. No other job will give you that kind of a satisfaction with that kind of a scope, that when you sit as a judge on the dais, you are completely independent. No lawyer, no other professional is independent in that sense. Because you know, when you appear as a lawyer before the court, you have to study the judge, you have to find out how the judge is going to react, and there are various limitations on you when you perform as a lawyer in the court. So therefore, please remember one thing, everything can't be counted in terms of money. Yes, I do agree that to survive as a human being, you need money. You need good money. But now you'll realize from the figures which my brother Justice Dabholkar has given, that judicial posts have a reasonably good income. The other aspect is of sacrifice. Does it really involve sacrifice when you opt for career in judiciary? As I told you, the work satisfaction, the job satisfaction which you get is enormous, which can't be compared with anything else. And if you take into consideration the job satisfaction, I don't think career in judiciary involves any sacrifice. Of course, now the times have changed. The money has all its importance. And unfortunately, this has happened in state of Maharashtra, which really taught the entire nation what is sacrifice. As a junior lawyer, I used to hear some wonderful stories. There was one very eminent senior counsel was invited to become High Court judge. He came back, he said no. He told very blunt no to the Chief Justice. And he came back to the bar and he said, I am maintaining 6 dogs. The salary of judge is not even sufficient to feed the dogs. These were the stories which we used to hear as junior lawyers. There was one senior lawyer who was invited to become judge. He said, I am importing tobacco. I smoke tobacco. I use pipe. And the tobacco, the amount which I spent on tobacco will be much more than the High Court judge's salary. These were the stories which I used to hear as a junior lawyer. Friends, frankly speaking, I feel very sad about it. Why a senior lawyer should carry this approach when he is called upon to perform a duty for the nation? I can understand a senior lawyer saying politely no, but why this contempt? Why this contempt for the post? Why this contempt for those who really want to sacrifice? This I really never understood. Why this contempt when somebody is called upon to perform a national duty? You could have politely said no. You could have said that, look, my temperament doesn't suit the job. But thereafter the things change. Again, some of the younger lawyers in the High Court who were doing well, they decided to opt for judgeship. When it comes to sacrifice, as I told you, Maharashtra is pathbreaker, right from Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Gokhale, Karve. They're all illuminaries who are very highly educated. Instead of going for a lucrative legal practice, instead of going for a lucrative government job, they started working in the field of education. Today, why Maharashtra is stated to be number one in education, the reason was people like Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who had done post-graduation, who are qualified lawyers, decided to come together and form an education society, and all of them worked in that education society at the princely salary of 30 rupees per month or 40 rupees per month. That's why, because of that sacrifice, that now we have such excellent educational facilities in the state. So now younger generation has to remember, if at all the judicial post involves sacrifice, it is now time for the younger generation to remember that at least some of them must make sacrifice. Surely, I am again repeating that accepting judicial post does not involve sacrifice. I am telling you from my own personal experience, ultimately it depends on the way you look at it. Ultimately, it depends on your outlook to the life. And your outlook to life can be always changed. Your perspective towards life can be always changed. And I expect now younger lawyers to change their perspective. I keep on attending various seminars, maybe your bar council, bar associations. Some senior lawyers keep on addressing such seminars, and they always keep on discussing about falling standards of judiciary. About 3 years back, in Bombay, one social organization arranged a workshop on future of judiciary in India. One eminent senior advocate delivered a long lecture about falling standards of judiciary. Few months thereafter, he published his autobiography. In autobiography, he was candid enough to write that at the age of 45, the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court offered him judgeship. But he refused only on the ground that he felt that the salary was not good enough. And in his autobiography, he has given a very interesting incident. He had a 10-year-old daughter who somehow learned that her father was offered judgeship, but father has declined. So one fine morning, that young girl told her father, "Dad, I want you to accept judgeship. I promise you that I will not insist that you should buy toys and chocolates for me, but please accept judgeship." Now the same gentleman delivered lecture for half an hour on falling standards of judiciary. I have seen number of senior lawyers. I'm sorry, I am diverting myself from the topic, but I have seen very senior lawyers doing it, criticizing the judiciary, talking about falling standards of judiciary. I know that all of them were offered judgeship and they have said no. Even their second generation is practicing law, but none of them have thought about joining judiciary. So therefore, if you really feel that there are falling standards, if you really feel that judiciary is not up to the mark, you must accept the challenge. As young lawyers, you must accept the challenge. You must opt for career in judiciary. The reason is that if you remain out, it is very easy to criticize the system. It is very easy to say every day that so and so judge is incompetent, so and so judge doesn't know law. But by saying this, you are not going to improve judiciary. Only way to improve judiciary, only way to ensure that the judiciary really performs is to ensure that good lawyers join judiciary. And that is the message which I want to convey to young generation of lawyers, that now with the changing times, the young lawyers must have serious rethinking. I know that most of you, when you join law college, you have dreams before you that you will become a very successful lawyer, you will earn fortune. But now we need to change the approach of the students. And now, therefore, the Judicial Academy is going to devise a program now. Now we'll be going to all law colleges, and now we are going to encourage the students to adopt career in judiciary. Friends, some of you may have some questions. I am going to devote some time to answer your questions. I attended a workshop in KC Law College when a bright law student asked me a question after the seminar was over. That, sir, is it correct that life of a judge is very uncomfortable? Is it correct that the judges feel very uncomfortable because they are subjected to criticism? My answer from my personal experience was a categorical no. The student was very bold. She took out a paper cutting from her pocket, and she showed me the paper cutting. It was some article published on my own judgment, very seriously criticizing my judgment. Then she said, this is the article published, I think it was in Mirror or some other local newspaper in Bombay. Sir, you do not get disturbed because your judgment is being criticized. Then my answer to her was very simple, because that was a judgment which was pronounced at 5:30 on the earlier day, and the workshop in the college was on Saturday. It was it was a court holiday. The judgment which was delivered, which was pronounced at 5:30, it was not dictated in open court. Only operative part was read in the open court. The judgment was typed and signed. That judgment was not even uploaded by Saturday morning because it was lying on my table. Still, there was a criticism in newspapers about what I have said in the judgment when nobody had read that judgment. So don't get undue disturbed because of criticism. Making little diversion, the other day there was a judgment delivered by the Apex Court dealing with Section 377 of Indian Penal Code. I came back from the court around 9:30 in the night. I put on one of the TV channels. All TV channels were discussing the judgment of the Delhi High Court and judgment of the Supreme Court. I am told, if I remember correctly, I read in those days, the judgment of the Delhi High Court runs into more than 100 pages. The judgment of the Supreme Court runs into 99 or 100 pages. I am sure that all those who are discussing on television channel, none of them had bothered to read the judgment. The judgment of the Supreme Court was pronounced in the morning at 10:30. How could one read 100 pages of the judgment of the Supreme Court, about 150 pages of judgment of Delhi High Court, and then to criticize the judgment? So don't get worried about the fact that judges are being criticized. Don't get worried about the fact that something is being said about the judges which is hardly charitable. Even same thing is said about lawyers. Now, how many lawyers are facing complaints before the Bar Council? How many lawyers are facing complaints before the Consumer Forum? You may be a member of any profession. You may be doing any high-profile job. You are bound to face criticism. In fact, in criticism, I see a challenge. As a judge, I always welcome constructive criticism of my own judgment because I know where I am wrong. If I am constructively criticized, if somebody really criticizes my judgment with constructive point of view. So therefore, don't be worried about the criticism. Don't be worried about somebody saying something uncharitable about the judges. If you want to do a very sensitive job, if you want to do something good for the judiciary, something good for the public at large, you should be ready to accept criticism. Never get worried about criticism. Because as a judge, when you become a judge, you have to remember that you don't become a judge to become popular. You become judge to discharge your duties. You become judge to uphold the law of the land. You become judge to uphold the fundamental rights of the citizens. So don't be deterred by the fact that judges are being criticized. Don't be deterred by the fact that sometimes you get an impression that some section of the media is targeting the judges. That is no ground to get deterred and say that I won't become a judge. So friends, to conclude, all that I want to impress upon you is that if you really feel that you are good at law, if you really feel that you want to do service to the nation, if you really feel that you want to contribute yourself, you want to contribute to the field of law, you must accept the challenge. At least some of you must accept the challenge. Some of you must think of joining judiciary. Friends, I don't want to add anything more. I just wanted to convey my thought process. In fact, I wanted to speak for longer time, but I have throat constraints. I have very bad swelling in my vocal cords, so I want to stop here. But I want you to come out with queries, because I am here to answer your queries. My brother Justice Dabholkar is here. He will also answer queries. So I want really all of you to apply your mind and come out with the queries. Yes, I'll sit there and answer your queries.